welcome to the second episode of my experience growing hydroponic vegetables in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Now, in the first episode, we've already discussed the pros and cons of hydroponic gardening and why I got interested in this subject, and today we're going to be focusing on tomatoes. This is Dr. Atika and welcome to the Control Living Experience. There is nothing more amazing than the marriage and the coupling of tomatoes and basil, and you cannot have one without the other in a proper vegetable garden. Now today we're going to be talking about growing organic heirloom tomatoes, the different methods of propagation, and my experience, pros and cons as a whole. The most important step is to begin with the right kind of seed. I got my hands on some heirloom varieties. They're non-GMO and organic, and we're starting off this experiment using two kinds, the Black Crim and the Cherokee Purple. These varieties are not found in this region, so this would be an interesting experiment to see how they survive. The germination rates were pretty good, and they've been handling the late summers and the early winters in Riyadh pretty well. Once the plants matured, they started getting bushier and started giving off a lot of branches and suckers. Regularly trimming these plants and removing these suckers and extra branches was absolutely necessary for the general health of the plant. As you can see, I've just removed off a small sucker with even a small flower developing on it. Instead of throwing these trimmings away, I generally use them for further plant propagation. I find it to be much more easier than starting a plant from seed. Once we've got our cuttings ready, it's now time to start propagating. We've got the essentials like the seeds, the cuttings, the rock wool, which is our growing medium, the net cups, some clean water, and a container to soak the rock wool. Now we're going to start off by taking our rock wool, soaking it in the fresh clean water. Once it's soaked for 2 to 3 seconds, just give it a tight squeeze to ensure all the excess water is drained out. Then insert it into the net cup and ensure that it reaches all the way to the bottom. Regarding the seeds, we're going to put at least 2 to 3 seeds in each of the rock wools, just because we're not really sure about the germination rate and we really want at least one plant growing in each rock wool. We're going to soak another rock wool and repeat the procedure just to make sure that it's not really dripping wet. It will be kept in a humid environment later on. So we're going to squeeze it and prepare it just like we did before, but this time we're going to ensure that we take the fresh cutting and we insert it all the way into the bottom of the rock wool. Now, while the seeds are kept in a separate area for germination, all of the plant cuttings, I keep them in a special container with the bottom filled with fresh water and some clay pebbles. And here I'm going to show you the comparison between the freshly prepared cutting and the one that I had put here a week before. So this week-old cutting is already showing signs of roots which are appearing at the bottom. Now once the seedlings are mature and they develop roots, it's now the perfect time to transfer them into a nutrient solution, which is basically a blend of calcium nitrate, magnesium sulfate, and a master blend. This is the routine and the standard mixture which is used for all hydroponic tomatoes and leafy greens. Please make sure that you use fresh unchlorinated water for the nutrient solution. Once the mixture is prepared, you can transfer it to the container in which you're permanently going to keep your plants. Once the seedlings have developed some roots, it's okay to transfer them into the larger containers. As you can see, this is the root that's developed in a week 2 seedling. By the 4th week, you're going to see a significantly larger root, which is capable of sustaining the plant in the Kratky method. And at this time, you don't need to refill the water very frequently, as only 2/3 of the root at any point should be submerged in the water. By week 6, the plants look much larger with a large root structure, as you can see in the picture here. Now, for transplanting the seedlings into their permanent homes, I found that recycling these old yogurt or lemon boxes was a really good option. I was using a circular blade to cut a 2-inch hole, and that was perfectly fitting the 2-inch net cup that I was using for my hydroponic plants. And for a smaller plant, the plant could spend its whole lifetime, as you will see in the following video, into this container, and it only has to be refilled every 2 to 3 weeks. However, if your plant is larger and you want to have a longer time between refills, you will have to go for a larger container. This is an example of a much larger mature plant that I've also put in. This is a 5-gallon container made of styrofoam, and I usually have to refill it once every month. By week 20, you're going to notice that flowers are going to start appearing. This raises another challenging situation because in nature you have bees and insects and butterflies and birds that help in pollination. However, living in the middle of the desert, also in the middle of a city, that creates a challenging situation. The way that you can overcome this challenge is that as soon as your flowers start to appear, make sure that you just take a few seconds to agitate the plant a bit, just to ensure that pollination occurs. It just takes maybe 2 to 3 minutes, but as soon as you see a flower appearing, agitate it. If a flower does not get pollinated, it shrivels at the base and it falls off, just like the ones that you see in the picture. However, if the pollination is successful, by the first week, you're going to see a small tomato with the dried and shriveled petals still attached to it. Now, over the weeks, you're going to see that the size of the tomato keeps on getting larger, and the petals at some point are going to shrivel up and fall off, which is usually by week 3. By week 3, you're going to see that the tomato is going to increase in size significantly over the following days and weeks. Now, the sizes and the ripening time is different with the different variants of the tomato. So since this is still the beginning of the season and I'm growing a variety of tomatoes, it's going to be another 8 weeks to 10 weeks until the first harvest is actually complete. Now, if this video interested you, or if you guys really want to know what happened with my harvest and the updates, please subscribe to the channel and turn the notification button on. As soon as I have my harvest, I'm going to give you an update. Also, if you have any questions or comments, or you have your own personal experience with hydroponic gardening or growing tomatoes in general, please do mention it in the comments below. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you.